Welcome, Professor Shiv, and thanks a lot, sir, for giving your precious time to me today on my channel.
Thank you. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Professor Shiv, you have marvelous research work and you are academician par excellence. And there are so many research areas in which you have pioneering work and the research work which is related to solution of the real life problems. So I will be interacting with you, sir. I have collected some kind of questionnaire here. But before that, I want you to give your brief introduction to all of us here. Majority of my followers are engineering technocrats, engineering students. They will be very happy to know about you, your academic journey from your college days till IIT Hyderabad.
Okay, thank you, Vijay. See, I come from very humble background. So I am basically from a small city in Uttar Pradesh, Gazipur.
Okay.
But I born and brought up in Varanasi because my father was teacher, my mother was teacher. Both are teacher in the one of the very old college in Varanasi known as Udar Pratap Inter College.
Great.
So, which is actually one of the king had made that, and it is made for the people who get educated because he lost his son and daughter in a very early age. So he thought that why not to create a situation where you can get a son and daughter every year. So because of that, he has started with this motivation, and that is in the Varanasi. In fact, it is before the BHU. The BHU is younger than the Uday Pratap College. So that's how we start. So my study was actually mixed math because of family constraint. We are lower middle class people family. My father was teacher and we had joint family. So we study. I basically studied in Varanasi and partially in my village,
Okay.
and then come back Varanasi again. So that was I started. So actually, the very interesting fact of our family that my father was four brothers, and the thing is that in almost their thinking process are orthogonal to each other. Like my eldest father, like brother of my father, was actually very much religious, and he kind of remember Ramcharitmanas, Ramayana, Mahabharata by you can ask him, he can give the example from there. So
Okay.
we are listening from them. My father is youngest one, and he is like kind of the other thought process, and he's more modern, and his thought was totally different. So and in between people are different thought process. So actually I can get the information, not only me, my all family members. We are 10 brothers and sisters in our joint family. So everybody getting the different kind of information. Input was so many, signal was input so many.
Okay.
So that is where I can see the seed was given. So curiosity to know about what is happening around us, it was always there. And it's not only about science. Actually, it was everything. So what is happening, why it is there, how it can happen. Because everybody is giving their own information. We never able to materialize anything. So
Yes, sir.
that is how, so till intermediate, I studied in the UP college. And then I went to BHU for my graduation.
Great.
So there actually I must start saying that I start materializing my thought process towards science and technology. So I start my thought process more materialize that my whatever question is used to come. Now I start focusing. It's still coming outside, but I can start giving priority that I probably focus on my this curiosity towards the science and technology. So that is where I can say that uh, that it start getting more formally taken. And when I can say, if you come in the material science itself, so it start getting, then I went in IIT Kanpur for my post graduation. And then I can say that, uh, you know, it start getting sedimenting thoughts. Like thought now it get materializing, and now getting sedimentation and it start happening. So I start feeling now one by one thing is more clearer to me that what I am supposed to do.
Okay.
This different kind of thoughts also leave me sometime in trouble in my peers, especially
Okay.
because I always often found myself that I'm alone in the group. So like everybody else is thinking something else and I'm thinking something different. And I always bit corner and you know I always feel like that. Why I am like this? Like why I always found myself alone in the group of 10 or 5 or 20. I always found alone, and so. But I thanks to my parents, they always encourage me to follow the truth. Whatever the cost you have to pay, you have to follow it. Truth is something which is important. So so the pursuing the truth, as I said, is start materializing it in BHU, then sedimenting in IIT Kanpur, and I can say it gets crystallized in IIT Bombay when I doing my PhD. So I can see this. I wanted to say the small journey for this, and then I went for a postdoc as a research scientist in Singapore. I was there for a year or so. Then I really always wanted to come back in India and do my whatever further journey. I always wanted to be a teacher, to be like it was my, because my family member, my father was teacher, my mother was teacher, my Tauji was teacher, my Fufaji was teacher, almost everybody was teacher. So I always wanted to be a teacher, and plus the research was always embedded in it. So
Great.
so then I come back and join IIT Hyderabad. Since like year 2009, I'm onwards, I'm here. So
IIT Hyderabad.
that is what very brief journey I have. Yeah.
Okay. Professor Shiv, I will ask two questions on the basis of your brief introduction, sir. My first question is like people like you, technocrat like you, who graduate from very good institutes like Banaras Hindu University, normally they prefer to go into industries, or they prefer to go into public sectors or foreign or something like that, but they do not prefer to come into teaching. And sir, we need teachers, capable teachers, because they are into really serious business of making people career of the people. So I want to ask you, sir, why it is the case that people do not prefer teaching, or bright students do not come to teaching, and why in your case, though you have told us that your entire family was in teaching, so why in your case you thought of pursuing teaching?
So that why people are not coming in teaching is like very surprising, because we see our culture of India, like the best person go for teaching, like
Yes, it should be. Right.
But slowly it's get degraded. I must say, when a transition start happening,
Right.
when I say that the time of Chanakya, teaching become a business.
Right.
Start being business. That before that it was the best people can go there as a novel profession. After that, when
Nanda's came, yeah.
Nanda's dynasty,
Right, sir.
he started making a teaching as a paid business also. Somebody, one part start with business and other part become more for novel business. So that is two school of thought that clashing. And from there I can see that it might be starting the deterioration of the, when teaching become business and everything else become business, then of course, which is the more lucrative, and if the mindset becomes set in for the business, you have to go for the business. Which is giving better business, have to go for that. Like that's what I feel. So I feel degradation is happening because we thought teaching become a business. So that is something. When I talk to my parents, I can tell you my father was a very accomplished teacher himself, and plus he is very knowledgeable. He did a master in 4 subjects. Okay, so and he was working in a very good company in Kolkata, but he has also kind of feeling that like that is not giving satisfaction to him. Whatever the reason, maybe business point of view is not good, money point of view is not good, but he always think that. And I told you that my father was 4 brothers. In spite of all 4 had different thought process, but everybody who has a similar mindset that we have to give something back to society, what we get it. And the best way to give the society is to become a teacher. And that is kind of embedded in me, because it seeded. I don't know like how it seeded, but it starts seeding very, very early probably. So yeah, so that I said because of that I come in the teaching. So
great. Professor Shiv, you have done your postdoctorate fellowship, you said, from Singapore. My next question is related to that, sir. Many PhD students in India, whether they are doing from IITs or they are doing from NITs, they do not have clear idea how they can go for postdoctorate fellowship and how they can get these fellowships in foreign universities. So can you please tell us, sir, how they should approach for such fellowships abroad?
Yeah, so see, I always believe that exposure is very, very important. So I did my all my study in India. So like from undergraduate to my PhD. So, but I always have a feeling that it's important to see that how other people or other country people
Right, sir.
are exposing themselves. So that exposure can bring more information, so that I can do the similar kind of study if required be.
Right, sir.
So then uh, with this intention, I start thinking that what should I be doing. So there are two ways of approaching for this. A, you wanted to enhance your own skill set, what you do your PhD. Then you look for your peers who is doing fantastic in their area, and with that you can asking that, like, if they can interested in your profiles,
Right, sir.
or you can get some assisted or related topics which you wanted to enhance your bandwidth or spectrum.
Right, sir.
I was in other school of thought. I was that I am already what I did. I spent already 5 years. I probably know as good as anybody else, or a little lower than that, and with the time I can enhance it. But I wanted to do what is related area, which can actually not. I don't know much. Why don't we explore that? So with that intention, I look for the not the direct topic what I was working. Rather, I move to the related area where I wanted to work in the future, and very latest one. Like
Okay.
that can be the going to not state apart, but in fact going to futuristic.
Okay.
So with that, I have tried to approach 3, 4 people, and fortunately, I was able to get successful in first attempt. It's
Okay.
not always going to happen.
Okay.
But we need to try either of these two ways. So we should look for either your peers or a site related ladder, but still you think the who is the top of the ladder. Don't
Right, sir.
don't compromise in your choice of the what
Mhm.
place we wanted to go work.
Great, sir. Professor Shiv, now I come to your research area, sir, slowly. So
Mhm.
I want you to give us some brief journey of your research area and your research interest, sir. Please tell us something about that.
So as I mentioned that research started sedimenting in this and crystallizing at IIT Bombay. So I must say research thought process start very long back. So I really want to become theoretical researcher, and then and I undergraduate I do some theoretical research. Then I master I really good in experimental. I was not very clear. I said that it was sedimenting, but not very clear at which side I have to go over. Then I come to IIT Bombay, and actually I joined an electrical engineering department with Professor Siddhartha Gupta, and he is a kind of person who will give lots of freedom. And he said that you find out your problem. I will not find your problem, and that is where I must say that I give lots of credit to him. Not lots of people can give you so much liberty to think and find out. So I start thinking, and then I found out that one of the burning problem at that time, that if you see the MOSFET history, it get any electronic technology was not go off because they are underperforming. Even vacuum technology was not go off because they are underperforming. They are goes off because they are not able to solve the problem of thermal mitigation.
It's
Whatever thermal management was not there properly, they have to switch off. And in fact, BJT, which was a fantastic device, right? BJT was like a super device, and it's still better performance wise, they are better than the MOSFET. But BJT was again go down, and MOSFET emerged because of the BJT not able to solve the thermal problem. And when I was there in my PhD, I start founding. In fact, I listened a talk from the Intel, and they said that electronic cooling is one of the going to be another big challenge, and that will lead again close of the even MOSFET. And that is where I said, okay, can I do something on it? And then I took as a challenge that let me challenge myself that even I'm electrical engineering, can I work in the interface of electrical engineering and mechanical engineering?
Okay.
And that is where I chose a topic of working on electronic cooling. And then that gave me thought, because my professor is electronics, right?
Okay.
And I need somebody who can assist me in the mechanical side as well. And then Professor Agrawal, no better than him, was available. And I actually personally went and asked him that, not my professor, I went and asked him that, would you like to become my co-supervisor? And
Okay.
you know what? He said that, see, I am mechanical engineer, but I'm not exposed in electronic engineering.
Okay.
But that is the greatness of him. So he said, he took the pain of equal to student. He said that let us do together, and that gave a lot of boosting. And every day we discuss one paper and come up with the frame of the work, and finally we would work on the electronic cooling. So that is how I pursue in my
Okay,
master.
great. Great, sir. Professor Shiv, I want you to tell us in very simple terms the meaning of sensors. You are working extensively on sensors. So majority of our followers here on my channel, they are technocrats, but they may not be knowing this term. So I want you to explain us in a simple terms the meaning of this. What is the sensors?
Okay, so very very interesting thing. So like sensor is nothing but a device, right? So if you see the change, what is sensor? Sensor is a device which detect or give the information or respond of any input signal from the environment. Okay, and then output, it can be again in either electrical output, or it can be some other kind of output. Okay, and which can be displayed on either you can read it or you can see it. That is how the sensor is thing. This is sensor. So that I can actually give an analogy. That is much easier. For example, as a human, as any animal being, there is sensors, sensing organ. For example, if you take the animal being, like you can take a human being, you have 5 sensing organ, right?
Exactly.
Ear, eye, nose, tongue, and skin.
Yeah.
So they have a different functionality. And they, for example, if I am correlating my work with all this functionality. So like say I am working on a biosensor and a gas sensor. What is nothing but is like electronic nose. Okay. What I'm trying to do, what is nose can do it. For example, by smelling, that what they do, that actually they are detecting the molecules.
Right.
Okay. So if you can make a device such a way that just by the smells, just by the molecule coming on my surface, can I detect, aha, this is the same molecule. For example, if you sniffer dogs, right?
Yeah, yes.
Sniffer dogs don't require any sensor. They sense it just anyway, RDX is there, they just sense it, because that is how their sensory organ of nose is so strong. So sniffer dog is still a gold standard of the sensing of the gases. Like that is fantastic, right? Yes. Similarly, ears. Can you hear something by the pressure sensor? Okay, we are working on the PMUT or CMUT. They are actually ultrasonic pressure sensor. So our work, we are working on even the pressure sensor, and again that is actually a MEMS device. We'll talk later if we have a time for that. And then we are working on an infrared radiation sensor, a bolometer, microbolometer. It is nothing but this kind of work. Skin can feel temperature. Skin can feel pressure. So that I like bolometer for me. Milk adulteration. Like any adult, if you drink a milk, what it will test will give you, oh, this is not good milk. Its pH is different. And all those things. So we have developed milk adulteration kits, which actually equivalent to saying that is a kind of test. So what I mean to say, what are the, and see that this is input signal coming on it, and what is happen after that, they translate electromagnetic signal to our brain through neurons, and they process it. This kind of processing our processor, and then this is your your pain point. You can see something, you can see something, optically you can see something. So these all are the sensors. So what I mean to say that, like one of the area which I work in my research is sensing side, which I feel is inspired totally by the nature, absolutely from it. And what I am trying to do, that whatever nature do the best. For example, nose, sniffer dog is the best. We can actually get those kind of level. Wherever the nature do best, I try to mimic that, and we try to reach as close as nature
as possible.
That is what the approach is. So we, of course, we know we cannot do better than nature, but if you can go closer and closer and closer and closer, probably then we are resolving the. It's the first part. Yeah.
Okay, Professor Shiv, you rightly said that nature is the perfection. Nature has given perfect examples to us, but have we reached anywhere close to, sir? Census ki case mein, have we reached anywhere close to what
Uh,
nature?
in some cases, we are probably doing better than the nature,
Okay,
but most of the case, not really.
okay.
For example, in biosensing, biosensing, none of the nature device can able to give us, you know, correct picture, a
Mhm.
correct picture of what kind of disease you are having, right? So, but our
Mhm.
sensor can actually sense it that no, you are having a malaria, you are having a dengue, or you are having a breast cancer. Nature
Mhm.
cannot, no device can do it. At least we are not knowing. Maybe somebody, some natural uh, uh, system can do it, but we are not aware of those things. But
Mhm.
many other places where we know that
Mhm.
uh, nature is doing much better job. For example, eagle can see from thousands of kilometers. Okay, but our eye, our bolometer device cannot see from that far.
True.
Okay, so we are trying to achieve that. If you are able to do that, that you have BrahMos. I'm working on the bolometer device for the defense only. So it is
Okay.
going to be long distance. Like I'm trying to see for 300, 200. At least can you see even 100 kilometers?
Okay.
My device
Mhm.
can do only 2 3 kilometers. So I'm trying to increase and reaching towards the nature side that how long we can see that. So like there are some places I can say kind of drop in the ocean. We are
Yes.
touching the nature, but most other places
Yeah.
are very far away from the nature.
Yes, yes. So, Professor Shiv, your entire research work is related to detection of these things only. And I come to your next work, which is detection of malaria, parasite, and dengue. You've done very good work in that, sir. Please tell us something about that.
Yeah, so that is again so somehow or other every research has some story we start with. So
Right, sir.
so actually this is very much related to my home house. Actually, you know what? When I was here, my one of my family, my daughters, she got some fever, and we went to the hospital. And hospital guy, because based on the what is happening around city that time, they said, okay, you might be having malaria and go for test for the malaria, or you might have dengue, go for a test for dengue, and something like that. So they keep hopping you, and unfortunately she has having a typhoid, and they did not even suspect for typhoid, and they keep testing everything one by one, and in fact that process is take almost took a week, and she become more weakened.
Okay.
So that is where I found, oh, there is some fundamental problem in the growing
Mhm.
process, because why they are having a problem, because all are fever based diagnostic. So
Yes.
every symptom is just a fever.
Mhm.
Okay, if malaria, dengue, typhoid, and kalajar, all are actually fever-based device,
Right,
fever-based
right.
symptom.
Right.
And cough, cold, all are having a similar symptom. The
Mhm.
doctor is only going to take a decision based on what is actually around us, around the city, or around the community. So
Mhm.
they, because they don't want to spend lots of money as well. So I thought, let us make a fever panel.
Mhm.
So, which actually going to assist a doctor, take a panel, do all tests at one time, and take a decision as soon as you can do. And then you actually know that what is the problem patient is carrying. So
Mhm.
then you should not worry about 3 times, 4 times coming and do that. I understand the cost involved in that. So I want to make cost effective as well, so that whatever you are doing, I can do all three
Mhm.
fever panel in one chip, and
Mhm.
that's how you can actually solve the whole problem. So that is how that concept emerged out. And then
Okay.
so I took challenge and start making the fever panel using the dengue,
Mhm.
malaria. These are of course two most important disease to capture in India, because this is actually because of born by the mosquito, and lots of mosquito around all of us. So we took one by one. I actually first I started working on malaria, and the malaria, there are two kind of bacterial thing which is involved doing this. So we take the which has a maximum impact, about 88% HRB. So we took that, and then we tested it, and we found that and we develop our sensor such a way that it can be detect as, because most of the time what is again happening, that uh, when you're detecting, doctor said that, yeah, you got fever, please come. That is another case. We reached very first day, and we asked the doctor. He said that wait for 2 days, then only you know that you are having a malaria or dengue, because right now no test will give you the results. We are just, you got fever just today. That is very surprising to me. So that two
2 days.
story actually add up together, and then I thought, no, nothing doing. I have to find out some way that even first day, in man, why to wait for fever? Before fever should be actually, if you can do it at home actually. That is how this is the seed of my thought, the two things. So I said, why not actually able to make a sensor which can actually sense this parasite in our body even in first day. I have to wait for 72 doctor to come and say that, oh, you have to not test it. And that actually happened to my another my sister daughter. They asked, come 3 days later, and we already suspect that she had dengue, because dengue is all around. And we start taking a precaution. And because of that, her platelet level never come down to 1.5 lakh, because you are taking precaution from day one. There is no medicine though, but we know that if you take a precaution, you can do better. So these two lessons actually make me sure that I have to not make only panels, but I have to make very sensitive, that even in very first day, I able to diagnose that is a fever because of the dengue or because of malaria. So that is something which we brought it, and we start working, and we are actually going to employ our nanotechnology based concept, and we go on, and that also we also thought that let us, why to wait, you can go to doctor, point of care, I can do it at home.
Okay.
So we took all this. So we took a point of care, we took fast, and then we can do a panel. So with these three, it problem can resolve pretty well. And then you can go to doctor and say, I have this problem, why don't you solve this problem? So with this, we are making very, very sensitive. You will be very happy to note that our sensitivity limit was about 1 femtomolar per gram. 1 femtomolar, or like that is kind of and what is right now in nanograms. What we are doing that one femtogram. So it's like about 10 to power 6 times better than the most of the commercially available device. 10 to power 6 times. I'm not talking about percentage. I'm talking about times. So we are actually, our technology can do so good that at least 10 to power 6 to 10 to power 5 times smaller molecule concentration able to detect it. That's why you need not to wait for 6 days and 3 days to come and allow your bacteria to grow first, and then you get tested. There is no advantage. If you can able to kill them early, then you can actually get better.
Okay. So, Professor Shiv, what I understood is like you worked on detection of malaria and dengue separately, which otherwise was not possible for doctor to detect, and you detected it the very first day, so that your cure starts from the very beginning, and days are not wasted. So, I want to ask you, sir, have you commercialized this particular research, or what stage is this?
So actually, we have prototype ready.
Okay.
Prototype ready, and you know that the ecosystem of venture funding is not very great in India. I tried a lot. I'm still trying it. Some talk is under some advanced stage, because but then all of a sudden Corona start and is go down.
Entire attention went to Corona side.
yes. So that is where my attention go to. So that is where the is get stuck. But prototype ready. So if anybody is listening and they are having some investment in their mind, we are very happy to be a part of that.
So do you have anything in your mind, Professor Shiv, how much investment is required for this?
See, like, so if you want to get standalone, I'm thinking about $1 million will help you to standalone system. You can make.
Okay. Professor Shiv, my next question to you is also related to one of your another interesting research, that is early detection of heart attack. So you have developed a very good, you've done a very good work and made a device, good device, which detects heart attack early. So tell us about that also, because that is also another very big problem in our country.
So in fact, if you sit down and see, 1/3 of the death in India is actually because of the cardiac arrest, and so that is where something which all need some big attention. So again, it started with a small story. Sorry about that.
Yes, yes, no,
I
it's
always have
interesting, sir.
always have a story to start with because that is how I start working on it. So so thing is that what is happening in India most of the time when we go to the doctor, actually most of the time it goes to when you are in the last, like a kind of you got attack already and then you go to the hospital. In fact, this kind of you have already damaged your heart quite significantly. Even you recover, actually happened to my own mother. So but she can recover, but you have already got irreversible loss of your heart. It's not that your loss was not it's irreversible loss. So you cannot reverse it any back. So you have already 100%, 70%. So your loss has happened. So I thought that what, and that after that my mother becomes so weak. I can feel that if that loss can be prevented early, then it can be a very very good effort toward that side. So for that means I have to predict it. Some prediction I can do it. Okay. Again, the why and that whole idea. That in fact, you'll be happy and I was surprised at least when I know from talking to doctor that our body has the information that I might be going to get attacked in certain time. Unfortunately, we don't get it because those symptoms is like getting breathlessness sometimes with temperatures like sweating. Symptom is so common to other things. You always ignore it. Okay, it might be because of I was tired enough. I step up and all those things that is symptom is keep coming, but we keep ignoring those things because this is normal to us. But that is the point. We need to be very careful. And why you are not doing it? That going to doctor is always very, people are always scared to go to doctor. Why to go to doctor? So they always don't, any symptom which come, you always feel that why to go to doctor. It's fine. But let's say you are having a chip like nowadays you are having glucose chip, right? You can diabetic chest at home, or even having a BP meters, right? You feel anything, you just go and check it and it's good, fine, and you will be happy. Similarly, if a chip will be available, which can tell you immediately by test, and you have to do 2 type testing. So we have some we have identified with some biomarkers with the ESI hospital. One of the hospital, ESI, one of the government of India hospital, ESI hospital. There are like 44 hospitals in the India. More than 50 to 20 crore patient they are handling per year because this is because of labor ministry. So all the labor who has less than some salary, they can handle it. We sit with them and find out what kind of marker. If you find out early, and they have correlated with the some other markers of the testing time. We have correlations, and if you are able to test them, if they are found elevated, not only elevated one time, you measure 2 times, first here and second here, and they have some slope, then it is early sign of heart attack. Okay. So we are going to get some cardiac problem in future, and that is where we are doing that. And why right now cannot be done again? The kind of concentration detection of the molecule right now is very very like in nanogram per ml. However, the requirement for the protection is should be in picogram, almost 1,000 times. But I mentioned that we have now capability to sense it in kind of femtogram. So there is no problem for me to actually at a concentration level of problem. So we have taken a call and said, okay, we have identified these markers and actually able to do the labeling for it. And then we are going to still that is not yet developed fully because that require more clinical training. But we are actually able to test in picomolar and actually able to say that predict it that you are healthy, but right now, but 6 months later, probably will be going to be a trouble. So it's kind of early detections and predictions that you, for example, somebody level is very low. I can predict you are at least good for at least 1 year or more than that. You need not to worry. But so if periodically test at home, the device itself can give you that no, you are good or not very good. Okay, and it will be going to connect to your mobile. So all the device will be connected to your mobile. So you need not to buy a separate thing, only to buy reader and my chip. and that you can do at home, sitting at home. So that help you to predict very early.
So Professor Shiv, you are looking for investment even for commercializing of this particular device?
Absolutely.
Great. Okay, now I come to next your research area, sir, which is more recently related actual problem, and you have developed a first of its own kind kit, which is very cost effective. That is non-RT-PCR COVID-19 test kit. That is how it is known. So we want you to please share your development and origin of this particular entire device, how it is different from other such devices created around us, developed around us, and what would be the cost of it, and what is present status of the research in this area.
Okay, it's a very important. So I actually, when Corona geared up in India, so I very clearly remember the date also. I was in Bombay and I came to BRC. That the date was 12th March 2020. Exactly. I was in Bombay and people are feared. And I actually went for this, and I went along with my family member, my wife, my both kids, both daughters. We were in Bombay. After presentation, we thought we can visit all over places. But then I can see the fears everybody faces.
Yes.
Like I was going to Marine Drive. So if you were written Corona se Darona, okay. that means that people are worried.
There's here to worry.
That means you are worried, anybody worried.
Yeah.
So it starts sitting to me. It starts sitting to me that, okay, what is the, and that time I exactly remember the case load in India is only 62. Only 62.
True.
Okay. And then I went Pune and come back home. I came back 14th March here in IIT Hyderabad. That day, in fact, 12th March, I took a decision. What is the problem in current device? One of the problems that time, India have the only capability to check 100 tests per day. Per day, whole India. That was the capability of India. And that too done by NIB Pune. Means if something happened in Kanyakumari, they have to send to the NIB Pune. They only detect it. Similarly, something happened in Kashmir or Assam, they have to come and here and they test it. So how precarious it can be. You can understand the problem. And then with the time goes past, then the number gets started increasing because they understand that RT-PCR is the one of the device. What it do that it can take the this RNA of the virus and you can multiply, what you call polymer chain reaction. You can multiply for 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, and the number can go up. And when they reach to the number, they are actually immobilized with the probes, which have the colored probe. By seeing the RT-PCR, you can see the color, and based on that, if color has come, it means it has corona strain. If not, then you can say it is clean after some number of rotation, that is called CT, cyclic threshold. Okay. After 35 cyclic threshold doesn't come, it means it is good. Okay. So that is the process. So it requires lot of processes. It means you have to collect somewhere and you have to bring it at thing. You have to extract the strain, then multiply it, then probe it, and then see it. There are so many processes to do it. So it's required. So if you see the process involved, it's required very, very good manpower. You require BSL-2 or BSL-3 facility to extract it. Then you require very costly equipment like RT-PCR, about 25 to 30 lakh to detect it. And it's required at least 2 days to know the result. 1 day is minimum requirement to know that. If it comes to your place, you still require 3 hours to get the results of your thing. That is thing. So if you see that it's very costly, very time taking, required very, very high level of manpower, required high level of facility to do it. So all kind of problems you are facing it. Okay. And it is supposed to be gold standard. It's supposed to be gold standard. Then in between you start hearing that antigen based test has come, antibody test can come, but all are having a lot of flaws. Means antibody test will not give you the exact answer whether you are actually having corona or not having corona. Okay. Because you cannot take you the present state whether you are having corona, because somebody antibody generated. It means that you are having corona or you are having corona before also. So it will not tell you about your current status, whether you are good or not good. That is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody have taken antigen-based test, so that is another problem because 50% case. In fact, if you see the kit also we have clearly written by WHO that if you are negative, then you go for RT-PCR test. And out of 100, 90 will be going to be negative. Means 90 people have to go for the testing for negative. What is the meaning of doing that? So it's like the success rate for that is also very become poor. So I thought, why not to develop something which is gold standard, but does not require the time, money, manpower, and facility. With barring all this, so no RT-PCR, but equivalent to the gold standard. Okay, for that it means whatever the philosophy used by the RT-PCR, because what they are doing, just few minutes I can take you to explain what is RT-PCR they do. What they do, they took the very specific genomic sequence of the corona 2, SARS-2, and they only belong to SARS-2, not anybody else. And this specific thing they are multiplying it. Okay, so what I do, same thing. I also took the same specific strain of the corona and put on my device. So then they detect if some counterpart of corona come and probe, they get it and multiply it, and then they see the corona with the phosphorus, they can actually see the color. I do differently. So I select this corona probes and put on my device, immobilize on my device, and then I expose the patient swab and do it, then I drop it here. Okay, and then they go hybridization. Exactly what they do hybridization, I also do the hybridization, but I'm not doing anything. They are measuring my color, I'm doing my electronic measurement. That is the difference. So we don't require any manpower. Why? Because when you take a swab, I'm giving you one solution, you just mix in it. It will take 5 minutes to get 2 minutes to mix it. And now I don't do any extraction. I just take a 4 microliter of this and drop in my devices and 3 places and put for hybridization for 30-70 centigrade for 20 minutes. Take it out, again measure it. Again measure the conductivity before and after exposure of this, and it is now connected to one reader. And the reader will transfer the data in my mobile. Mobile is actually AI powered, artificial intelligence powered. It will going to process algorithm is already developed. To test it here, and then after testing, it will give the result. Oh, this is negative. It gives then and there within 30 minutes, without any required manpower, without any kind of exemplary high costing equipment, but without required any collection, you can do at your home.
Okay.
And you should be able to know whether you are corona positive or negative. And it is actually a gold standard because we are doing the specific sequence of corona directly. We are not doing any antibody and that. If you are detected, it means it is there, and that's how we actually supersede every other thing. And we have applied for the ICMR approval.
Okay. Okay.
So it is under the consideration for them. In fact, one time they come back saying that we did not put any control, because whether if negative is there, how do you know it's negative? Because of the collection wrong or because of the really negative? That time we have not foresee because we are the first time we are doing like this. Okay, and then the whole process is thought during that time. Since it's not that it's required only this much time. It is we have done because you have already 10 years of working experience in the biosensor, right? So we are utilizing all those pillars, and I have only 2 students at that time. Me, my one student Surya, and my other is Supraja. These 3 people are working in lab directly. In fact, sometime my wife Ranjana, she also by chance life science expert. So we all 4, and one of other like kind of giving a feedback. My relative, Dr. Vikrant, he's actually UC Davis, University of California Davis. He's basically working in the School of Medicine. So he also assists me. Sometimes this can be good chemistry. And so we are able to develop in 3 to 4 month time full corona kit.
Okay.
So right from the material to AI, everything was developed in 4 months. Of course, AI keep improving as we are getting more and more data. And we have tested we have that clinically tested, not that only lab. We went to the ESI hospital, we went to the CCMB, and we tested there. After getting a significantly good result, we went to the NIV Pune for testing. But I said there's a minor lacuna. They asked us. Now we are rectified. Again asking for it for the date. Like it's under the consideration. Let us see. Hopefully we'll come as soon as possible. So
okay. So present, how much time do you see, Professor Shiv, that it will be approved and you will this device will be
from
in
my
the
side,
operation?
I'm ready. If they ask to do test tomorrow, I can
Okay.
do it tomorrow. But actually, because of new strain come, and also because of the like government is rolling the vaccination, so the time for them is little less right now. So that was they're not giving quick time, but hopefully I'll get sooner than later.
Great,
So
sir.
I hope it will get clear very soon.
We wish you all the very best, Professor Shiv, and you are doing really appreciable research work, sir, solving the real world problems. Now I come to next part, which is related to technology, and that is Internet of Things. So, sir, you have a lot of experience in this domain also, and I want you to again explain us in very, very simple terms what is IoT, what is Internet of Things, and is there a scope of entrepreneurship for youngsters to go in IoT and IoT enabled healthcare domain?
See, IoT is next big thing, right? So that is what is actually the network of physical object in the thing. Thing means object.
Yes.
So network of objects. So what is the objective? This object can be computers, communication. This object can be a sensors. Okay, and we are using this object to connect through networks, through internet, and that is nothing but the Internet of Things. Okay, so that if you very so thing can be sensors, it can be software, it can be other technology which come as a physical objects, that is things. That will we are going to connect with the internet and get the information, and it has humongous application. Every field we know, they are actually now connected to the Internet of Things.
Yes.
Okay. So it means if you have to really opportunity, if you see the opportunity in this and research opportunity, the entrepreneur is fantastic. It is humongous. For example, I can say that if I were to take a single statement, the physical world that meets the digital world, that is actually nothing but the Internet of IoT. So physical world meets the digital world is actually nothing but IoT.
Yeah. Okay.
So like if you see the impact it can make. Okay, you have to work. You need to work lots of cost-effective, low energy, because you have to. This is going to be continuous working.
Yes, sir.
Cost-effective, low energy sensors. You have to. You should be very good in data processing AI. You require to be very good in that.
Okay.
Okay. You need to not know the communication should be faster, so the unhindered knowledge can be transferred from one place to other place. Okay, and this all have to be at one place. So usually you have to work on discretely, and if you want to become an entrepreneur in this area, you have to actually have the team which can actually connect all those things. And if you see the example, I can give from my lab what I'm doing on the healthcare example. There are many examples. You could go to the art. It had connection right now, right from the kitchen to automobiles, from smart city to the healthcare. So it had spectrum wide. You think it, IoT will be there. If not today, tomorrow. It is definitely going to be there. So it is so strong. And the one thing probably there, then in future, you are going to see that so many sensors all around, so many physical objects all around to us, that we don't know whether who is ruling, that sensor is ruling us or we are ruling sensor. That maybe the time will come very soon. But opportunity is immense. So I can give it a very simple example what you are doing at IoT. There are many work. I gave only one example in healthcare. Since you are asked for healthcare, so I just give an example. So we have taken a call and said that we can you can give IoT enabled post cardiac surgery monitoring. Probably there is a small summary on this as the origin artist, the literature I can say, and what we see that what happened most of the time when people get surgery, we surprise mortality rate of these people is more than 30% within 1 or 2 years after surgery.
Okay.
The reason behind is actually what happened that when people get surgery, they thought it's fine, but it's not true. Actually, you need to monitor very come. In fact, they have been asked to come to the hospital monthly basis or tri-monthly basis to check up everything. But of course, the country like us, we don't expect that we can actually get people can come within 3 months. We're a very poor country, and many people are living in a village. It's not easy to come for them. So we thought that why we cannot give the technology to monitor themselves, and they can come if and only if they have to come.
Okay.
So we have said that we are going to make the IoT enabled. Means what we are going to say, we are going to make 4 or 5 sensors. We are going to give a portable ECG, EPG, heartbeat monitoring. Okay, that will connected with you wear like a locket. So there's no problem. Anybody can wear like locket, right? Or in a shirt, you can wear like in shirt. So wearing is not a problem because that does not cost, that does not hurt you to working on anything. You just wear a locket or you can wear a shirt and you can walk. Okay. And these are connected with your mobile by Bluetooth or by some other communication media. You can do that. Okay. So and they are this ECG and all continuously monitoring your vital organ activity. So as soon as there is some kind of, and we have mobile, again we have AI enabled mobile, and as soon as you are going to get any kind of vital organ activity, little bit of fluctuations, this will give the information to your mobile, and same time it will give the information to doctor and hospital both. Okay. And as soon as you get the information, you will get another kit that is actually, because these are to give the initial information. Want to know the confirmatory, you have to do molecular test. We are going to get a chip again, that is biochip, and they will drop the blood of one drop of blood from just taking like this, and then measure it. After measurement, again it is connected to the mobile, again go to doctor. If the result is alarming, including, and I can actually give the alarm by my own app. I'm on AI enabled app. It will give the alarm to doctor. It will give the alarm to the hospital, and to the man, and also it's related whoever they want it. If signal is really thing, doctor will call, hospital will call, the person will ask, please go to the hospital right now. There's no chance of waiting anymore.
Okay.
So that help tremendously. Going to help tremendously to the monitoring of the person, even though he may not wanted to visit, but now he knows the urgency of the situation. Everybody calling in, please go, and then in that case he will be able to save it. This is one of the simple example of IoT
healthcare. Yes. So your advice to all the technocrats, sir, is that IoT is the next big thing, sensor is the next big thing. Be ready for that. You want it or you don't want it, it is going to come.
It is already there.
It is already there.
For example, now people are sitting on their home or their car, and they're opening their house AC on and lights
all
off.
these things.
Yes. Small ways start happening. But in coming time, I think it will be going to be there.
It is going to be there. Yeah. Okay, Professor Shiv, we also know that you have developed a device which ascertain the milk purity, and you have given it the name Rajhans. So we want you to share the journey of Rajhans also with us.
Yes, sure. That is a big journey, actually, to be honest. I told you, we brought up and born about a very humble family where we have our own cow and buffalo, even goat. We are having all those things at home. Okay. So we always have a habit to drink milk. In fact, I used to drink about 2.5 liters per day. Like that was close to us in my village and my university. Both we are having. So with that kind of background again, then we went to the hostel In a very few days, I realized that I'm not like getting the same taste what I supposed to get. So I feel that, and then I stopped drinking the milk. To be honest, then I come to Kanpur, I have a similar feeling. Then I come to Bombay, I have similar feeling. Surprisingly, when I went to Singapore, I start liking the taste and start drinking the milk. You know, almost about 10 to 15 years later, I start drinking the milk again. And then I come back India and join Hyderabad. Same thing happened. I start losing the interest in me. Again, same bad smells. Some taste which nostalgic to me was not coming actually. So that is something. It was always there. So that is where when I come back, and I said one thing I'll do, that I'll make a device which actually it means there is something wrong in the milk. It's not something adulterated in milk. And then I start getting a literature and found out in India is about 70 to 80% milk adulterated all over India, surprisingly. And that now I can connect it well. Because why and actually in between I went Purdue as a visiting assistant professor, USA. One of the big universities, so I was there. And I like the milk there as well. Not liking milk was only in India, surprising. And India should be the land of milk, and we are not liking milk in India. That puzzled me, and that actually kind of forced me to think something very differently. I can tell you a little bit of history that adulteration of India. You know that milk is nothing but the fat, protein, and some water in it. I mean, 88% is water at least, so lots of water in it. So, easiest way to earn money that add the water.
Yes.
Okay, and that is how the adulteration start happening. Okay, so then people had developed, like scientists had developed a device known as lactometers. What it do, it measures the density of the milk, and if you dip it, if it is not dipping more than that, it means the water has been added, and that's how you know that it's adulterated. Okay, water, and you decline this. So I feel okay. Then what the people on other side, one is a police, another is thief. Thief thought, okay, they are actually using density meter. So what they do, they start adding starch. You know, so become heavier. I start adding sugar. They become heavier.
Okay,
become heavy. Then you put this. The density is not able to distinguish, right? So it looks like good, but actually added more adulteration. Earlier they are adding only one adulteration, three adulteration, right?
Okay.
So then scientists come with another idea. They can take a litmus test like color. You add it, starch will be there. The color test change. Okay. So they can no. This is fail. This is pass, but starch test fail. Hence rejected. They are very smart. That even become very smart. And what they did, they actually add a decolorization of this, and then now they are adding. In fact, they added one more. They added one more
thing.
more adulterant, but you are not able to find them whether it's adulterated or not adulterated.
Okay.
And this process of, and then keep adding, and so then come up with a very strong idea. Okay, so police come by very strong answer that we have, because one of the thing added in milk is actually a nitrogen group because of protein. NH2 group. Okay, so why not measure the NH2 using FTIR or some spectroscopy? If the concentration of number of this less, it means this adulterate, and that's a good idea, very good idea. I must admire this idea. No, he be even more smarter. What is the best substitute of NH2? It's a urea.
Okay.
And they start adding urea, and when they are going to FTIR, they found, oh, these are same.
Okay.
And then you'll be surprised, even now Amul is testing 18 adulterant today.
Okay.
And that is not sufficient, I can tell you why. Because they think that now the whole if you see the whole idea, every time what is added, people are trying to detect what is, if it is there or not. But there are thousands of things can be added. Can you do thousands of things measurement? It's impossible to do that. Then the cost of your milk will be immensely high because you are keep
testing
doing
a lot.
Testing. So how many tests you can do that? But now that I'm saying this is intended adulteration. But there are many unintended adulteration. I can tell you the one more example. Let's say one of the our like cow get sick, and you inject some antibody, and unfortunately in India, that if cow gets sick, we still lactate it, and you still in principle should not sell those milk. But of course, greed is there. Nobody said that, and they added the milk. Now, unintentionally, you are actually giving antibody to a human being, which is supposed not to be drink. Otherwise, you are actually going to be antibody resistant. Antibiotic resistance, right? Antibiotic resistance will be because your antibiotic is already given to the cow, but you are drinking it. So this is unintended. Sometimes to increase the lactation, they are also giving the injection so that cow can inject more milk. Okay, that is also the thing you are actually giving to us. So it means, and what cow is eating, all are going to add something in our milk, and the very concept of measuring one by one lead the disaster in the milk adulteration. Disaster. I must say that using this word, very careful thing. This actually have a disaster. I thought, and that lots of research is happening in this direction. I thought there is no point of making a device which can do the same thing. So I can already 18 they are doing. I can do 19, right? That is not going to help us anyway, right? So like this is just addition. So that I thought, no, the way I was going is not going to work out for us. I need to find out some really good alternative to support it. I said there is no point of going behind thief, because often I found in my life thief always becomes smarter than police. That's what I have seen that. So I thought that instead of, for example, somebody targeting me, it's very difficult to find out the people who are meeting me, to track them. Now, thousands of people meeting me, and then somebody can be good, some can be bad, and it's very, very tough task for me to find out who was good and bad. Rather, if somebody start monitoring me, my inherent property, like for example, my inherent behavior start changing. It means I am meeting somebody wrong. I can flag it. Now Sri Govind is meeting somebody wrong person. Okay. So I thought similarly, if milk is meeting some adulteration, the milk inherent properties are going to change. So rather focusing on the inherent, who is adding in the milk, I'll focus on the inherent property of milk. And if the inherent property of milk start changing, then I can say that milk is adulterated. For the end user, or for even a dairy, it is good enough to know whether milk is good or bad. Why do you want to know what is added in milk? If you wanted to know what is added in milk, go and test it, not a problem. But for a user, if somebody said that, hey, can you drink this water? By seeing the water is full of mud, are you going to drink it? Or are you going to test it? You said, no, I'm not going to drink it, because it doesn't look like to be drinking. So for a user, if the information I can give that it is drinkable water, drinkable milk, you will be happy to drink it. Doesn't care what is added, what is not added. So that is my idea. So that we should not look for what is added. If my inherent property of milk get changed, I'll say that don't drink this milk. As simple as that. Don't take this milk from the person, the dairy also. So that clearly will define it. Okay? So that is where I said, no, I have to redefine the milk purity.
Yes.
So I have redefined, I take the biophysical property of the milk. Okay. And also I think one more thing. For example, density was a good idea. Okay. But only one marker will not going to help you. So it's like that. You can actually manage this density by adding this.
Yes.
So what I said, instead of looking for the one particular marker, I said like Abhimanyu ka Chakravyuh. You know, Abhimanyu was able to win the battle individually, everybody, right?
Yes.
But what happened? He lost a battle and all 7 meet together. So he cannot able to win the battle. So I said that in the same fashion, if I can make a Chakravyuh, that even you can beat one of the marker by your smart thinking, You can beat one, but I can make a some jumble of 3, 4. You can beat one, you can beat 2, 3, but you cannot beat all 4 together. It means any of the place you're going to lose it, and I can able to know this milk is not adulterable, not drinkable, and hence reject it. And that is how my device is totally different than the anybody who has developed in this world. We say that we not focus on the what is added. We say that what is the inherent property of milk get changed, biological property of milk changed.
Rejected.
I can define it. This is not drinkable. Don't drink it. As
Yes.
simple.
Very true, sir. Very true. So smart thinking over there on your part, professorship. That is very good. Now I want you to, sir, come to next part of your domain of research. That is MEMS. Now this word everybody has heard of, but I am very sure people don't know about this. So I want you to explain, sir, in your own natural way, the way you are explaining, very simplified way. What is MEMS?
So like if you get abbreviation point of view, it's a electromechanical system. It's simple.
Right,
Okay, so
right.
but if you want to little bit understand little more, so it's a microscopic object integrated and self-aware product. Self-aware product is a MEMS. But sometimes people are saying MEMS is M-E. E means euro, yes means dollar.
Okay.
Money euro, money dollar. So like,
Okay.
people can remember
Okay.
that it can
Okay.
be money, it can be
Okay.
dollars. So lots of things can be happen. Okay.
Okay.
So if you go to the more serious thing,
Mm.
MEMS is something which can sense, something which can think, means which can communicate or control.
Mm.
MEMS is something which can act.
Mm.
And nowadays we can actually not only this, you can get generate own energy.
Okay.
This all things can be done by one. That is equipment.
Great.
So it can sense, it can act, it can think, it can actually able to communicate or
Right.
control. All these things together in miniaturized
Mhm.
equipment. So,
Great.
so why MEMS? That is very important story. So I can
Okay.
give you some very
Mhm.
interesting. Why MEMS? Why very bigger? For example, you see the cantilever, you see the diaphragm in our houses. All are diaphragm structure.
Right, sir. Right.
Beams is there. You have seen the beam is there.
True.
Cantilever like this is there.
Mm.
There are bigger civil structure. We want to miniaturize all this to smaller thing, and I wanted to use for the sensing. I wanted to act for this sensing activity. We are trying to do that. So first up question come, why MEMS? Again, you have to learn from the nature. I always get inspired and I always love nature. The way they give hint. I give you two things. Performance, if you see, start from the very small object like ant to move to the elephant. Who is fastest? You can see fastest running is not the elephant. Tiger is the fastest running animal, right? This means as size grow, velocity grow. As size grow, velocity grow, but after certain size, it start decreasing. So it's like
Yes.
a maxima, it's coming some maxima and they start going down, right?
Okay.
So size is important. But if you go with the velocity versus length ratio of the any biological object, now it is very surprising fact. Very surprising fact. You go with that velocity versus length means how long you are and what is the velocity. If you take the ratio of it, very interesting thing comes. It's not no more dependent upon even the cheetah or elephant. But if you say you can get almost every object as similar, but the object which is very small, like for example, take a what you can say sperm. Okay, sperm is very small. Okay, and there's length. If you take the velocity versus length ratio, it's fastest thing is sperm. They are smallest inside, but they are fastest with respect to length. And so they're almost in the same line, but as you go heavier and heavier, they are going down and down. Okay? There is a learning from the nature. Small velocity to length ratio may be better for you. That is what I am learning from it. Another learning from the nature. So strength, which can be more strength, which have more strength. And I can give the beautiful example. Person which is heavy, like I am very powerful, our ant is very powerful, our elephant is very powerful. If you sit down and start seeing this all word, you will surprisingly start noticing one interesting fact, that not the, like, human is can take care of their own body weight 1.5 times. That's all. If you take ant, they are able to take more than 1,000 times of their body weight. Okay, their body weight is maybe milligram, but they are carrying in grams. That 1,000 times more they can carry. That is the strength, right? How much you can carry, that is the thing. Elephant cannot carry their 1,000 times their body weight. They can die. Human cannot carry this. In fact, if you see the even more direct correlation, you want to see that. See the weightlifting. We see the weightlifting. If you, the person who has body weight 52, there are different category in weightlifting. You must be knowing, right? So
Yes, yes.
Olympic. I had just taken try to draw their weight ratio with the weight versus how much they lift. The people who had 52 kg weight and what people open category 126, 110, 120 kg and extra. And how much they lifted. I found that people with 52 kg weight, they are able to get 2.2 kg, mean 2.2 times their body weight. But if you go to the people with open category, they are able to get 1.5. Even in humans who have a smaller body weight, they are have higher strength than the had look like very built up, but their strength is less than that. Okay. What I want to communicate that nature is giving hinting. There is something great is hidden in small objects. Why don't we explore that? So
that is MEMS.
That is MEMS.
Good. Sir, related to MEMS, what challenge do you find in the research of MEMS? Because it is a highly cost-oriented fabrication process, MEMS. Do we have those facilities in India, sir? Fabrication of MEMS devices?
I agree. There are two big challenges. So one is the reliable production of MEMS devices. So see, so you may not be able to get a reliable product because can you reproduce every time? Okay, that is a big challenge, and that's why the cost go up. Actually, see, the MEMS industry become costly not because the costly equipment required. If you see that MOSFET or IC, what we are using every day in our mobile or laptop, the instrument required for them is almost these are more costlier than what we are using in the MEMS, but they are not costly. You are buying such a cheap way, but you cannot do the same thing for the MEMS. MEMS is little different. The reason behind the MEMS is the reliability, the reproducibility, and reproduction in high number. Mass production in yield is not very high. That is where the cost comes in. That is one challenge. Second challenge, MEMS. No MEMS device. I told you MEMS, it have to act, it have to communicate, it have to control. That required the circuit, electronic circuit. That is called ASIC. Okay, ASIC circuit required. Okay, application specific integrated circuit required. So that is where how to connect, how to integrate this electronic circuit, the MEMS, because both are made at a different foundry. That is another big challenge. These two challenges is actually hindering the MEMS to actually come strong way. Right now, they are able to integrate them. That's why you start seeing lots of MEMS application coming out of mobile sensor. Like right now you are using latest mobile, they are using 10 to 12 MEMS devices, accelerometer, gyroscope, lots of things, touch sensor, all are nothing but the MEMS devices. They start using it. However, we are developing tons of MEMS devices, but they are not used because of this kind of problem, because you are not able to reduce the cost, you are not able to do things. Now, my second question, you are saying, what is the chances in India for MEMS device? Actually, most of the IIT have now clean room. So not all, but at least I can say the older IIT and some IIT like IIT Hyderabad, ISC Bangalore, and all other older IIT have the clean room. So for research point of view, there is enough places one can do research in the MEMS. For production point of view, now thankfully, thanks to ISRO, they have now developed a dedicated lab called SCL Chandigarh. Now they are they are for the 180 nanometer technology ASIC lab, and now they are converting also in the MEMS lab as well. So
Okay.
where you can have to think of the production. For example, you have developed some technology. Like for example, I'm developing a microbolometer. Okay, where microbolometer is required for thermal imaging. So I can work on thermal imaging, and then I can transfer technology to somebody, and they can able to fabricate everything in the SCL Chandigarh. So that can be the production can be done. Still, I cannot say they are doing production in MEMS, but they are production in the circuit they are doing already. Chitar, Bangalore, at one of the DRDO society, they are also doing some good work in the MEMS production. So these two places in India is possibly the MEMS production is possible, but I can say right now it's not there up to the level, but I am sure within coming 2-3 years they will be in situation to start production how I do.
Great, sir. Professor Shiv, your another research area is micro channels on silicon. You started telling us about electronic cooling in the beginning, and now I come to your research on micro channels on silicon. So what is micro channel, and what is the importance of development of micro channels on silicon?
So this is very early stage of my crystallization of my thought process, I told you.
Okay.
So see, as I said, thermal management in the electronics is very, very important.
Yes.
So the way you cool, means thermal management you can do by how way, like the way we are doing that way time that we are using fin, like, number of fin and fans. These two together is going to cool your chip. By this, you are actually managing the thermal because heat gets generated. Lot of heat gets generated. You have to take out this.
Yes.
So, but these are doing off the package. When you complete the package, then you are doing the cooling. But packaging itself have a thermal resistance.
Yes.
So it means if you are going to cool there, you may not be able to, because the thermal resistance is still high. You cool and the way you are scaling down our electronic device every 1.5 years, you must have heard. Now we come to the 45 nanometer technology node. Now 32, now 22, now 14, now 10. So every time you are decreasing your MOSFET size, okay, gate length is decreased. In that case, in fact, you are actually increasing the leakage current, and that will lead more and more and more heat dissipation, and that will going to hurt your device. Now you have seen that modern technology is heating is a bigger problem. Even though cooling is become better, but still heating become bigger. You see that your device is not surviving for long and start getting hot. Even best of best technology getting heat up after certain time. So there is another way to do that. So there is a two way. One, you can do off chip cooling. I thought, why not do the on chip cooling? Okay, so I always wanted to the other side of the world, and I told you, from my childhood, I am always alone in the group. So I said, what other people are doing, can you not do little different? So instead of going off chip cooling, where we are seeing the loss of thermal resistance because of the packaging itself, we are going to cool on chip directly. Got it? So if you have a front side, all the MOSFET, all the circuit part, and back side immediately, instead of packaging, I can have a micro channels which actually going to allow the fluidics to flow. There are two advantages using a fluidics. A, heat transfer coefficient of fluid is better than the air. No, that liquid has more heat transfer coefficient as compared to the air. That immediate advantage. And B, since you are directly connecting with the channel, with the fluid current connect with the chips, it can cool faster.
Yes.
Okay. So these two advantages you can take, and then we are able to mitigate the heat much faster, much efficient way as compared to what we are doing currently. That was the thought process. Okay. So what is now question of micro channel? You said that. Okay. So micro channel is nothing but making a small miniaturized channels, which is actually that defined many ways. But if you one of the ways that you can define with the hydraulic diameter, effective diameter, which if it come in the micron side, then you can say your channel you call it a micro channel. So
okay. So the operation is silent or it's a noisy operation of cooling process?
Very, very good question. So it depends upon in what what way you are cooling.
Okay.
So if you are cooling in two-phase flow, there are two ways you can cool. You can flow your liquid in channel, and because it grabs the heat, so it can go in liquid can go in vapor. So partially liquid, partially vapor can flow. That is called two-phase flow, right? Because one not only liquid is flowing, alongside that vapor is flowing. Two phase is flowing together. Two-phase flow is there. It's after a certain time, two-phase flow will become noisy, very noisy. It become, I can say, it's kind of backflow start happening. Very interesting. After the interview, I can tell you, I can show you the movie of that, how backflow can actually affect it. So and how moving is there. So because what is happening, instead of big channel, we're having a big pipe. Anything bubble form, they just collapse after a certain time. In micro channel, when the bubble forms, that giant collapse, they actually occupy the full channel. And because they occupy full channel, they don't allow the movement from front side, and hence it start going back.
Okay.
That is the problem. So that is called a backflow. That become very noisy.
That
we come up with a very smart idea. So with that also, so we come up with a very smart idea that this problem can be solved. So we can use actually single flow as well. We can use two-phase flow. That is the beauty of our work. So then my work is actually taken next by my student and Professor Amit Agarwal student together, Vijay, now in IIT Bhilai. So we said that instead of two-phase flow, we can use a single-phase flow as well, and we come up with a new idea, and we actually solve the problem. So what idea is that because it is doing backflow, because actually it is giving completing the capturing the whole channel. But if you make a channel little diverging,
great,
the pressure outside is less as compared to bit side. So what will happen? So any extra pressure from back will push it further because resistance suffered is less there, and bubble can move forward, and that actually solve the problem. Actually. So
great. Great. So that is the recent research you have shared with us, Professor. That is great. Sir, I want you to tell us the meaning of microfluidic devices. I had the opportunity to interact with Professor Agarwal also, and I came to know through you only. You are working together, sir, in that. So please share your science and technology behind microfluidic devices which are created by you.
So they are microfluidic device means, like, again, if you are having a micro channels and you flow different kind of fluid and try to understand the physics and the application of it is nothing but the microfluidic devices. So one of the work we are having common, but rather quite a number of work we doing common. But I can share something which is probably he had not shared. So that will be benefit for your viewer because we heard it. So one of the application he must have mentioned that separation from plasma from the whole blood. Okay, that one of the work we do.
Yes.
But I'm going to share something very interesting. So which is more he had not shared. You probably not shared. So that is very interesting. What has happened? Again, is true, and this is real accidental good work, very good accidental work. We are trying to learn when fluid flow in a micro channel. Okay, how it can actually behave. So when fluid flow through it, then we have pulsating pulse. So we are actually using the pump, micro pump, pulsating pump, and we are seeing that. And in principle, if you flow rate increase, you can see it should be constant increase in resistance, right? If P proportional to R to power 4. The pressure versus flow rate should be always a linear, right? That should be the if you anybody mechanical engineer or fluid people understand that we have axis is one axis is flow and mass flow rate, and other axis is actually a pressure drop. Then you can see the linear growth in the resistance. You can see that is very standard. People understand this, okay? But what we are getting a very saturated like this. So it is like going up and get saturated, going up and saturated. So partially near, and that becomes saturated. That not matching with the theory what you are actually knowing, and that is where we start thinking why it is like this. So then I start searching, and then we do lots of experiments. Maybe we are doing something wrong, but every time our result was same. Then I start looking for each and every machinery we are using, and what we found very interesting, that whatever pump we are using, that is pulsating pump. Actually, you can give the pulse pulse actually, but if you are, it can give pulse only if the pressure drop is more than one bar, 1.5 bar. If less than that, it can give the smooth flow. But what is happening when it's increasing the flow rate, pressure drop is coming more than 1.5 bar, and that's why then they start doing pulsating and start saturating. That give a tremendous insight of the human. Why? So that's why nature, I always admire nature. Why it is so? I correlate. Oh, volume flow rate is same, but still pressure drop reduced.
Okay.
And that gives me a biggest insight that why nature is giving pulsation to. We know that our heart always pulse, and it's always varying from 18 to 120. Our blood pressure is always 80 to 120. We did the experiment with that. Tremendous result. The pressure drop was actually reduced drastically just because you are pulsating. Okay, nature is very smart. Nature is nature. They could have done continuous flow of blood, but they did not do it because they know that it's not energy efficient.
Yeah.
Yes, energy efficient, and that's something they choose to something to other. That is one very interesting understanding of science and technology. So you can actually model your whole blood with the using microfluidics. Okay,
Great.
how it works. Number one. One another interesting. I just there are many, but I can just do because lot of many is there. We are actually one of the work we are doing, the finding out the cancer cells in human, and that is ovarian cancer. You will be very like, it is not very good news, but very bad. That ovarian cancer is the maximum casualty happen. The reason that most of time ovarian cancer, you are actually detecting the thing very late, very late, and actually fourth stage of the cancer, because the kind of symptom the women used to get is actually similar to what they are facing every month. Right? So then they don't able to distinguish between this because of their natural thing or because of the some outside the cancer stuff, and that's why the reason they ignore it, and by the time they know it, it's already too late. Okay, so the best way to determine is either go with some biomarkers of stuff, which is actually not the great way, because we did it. We found that they are also false positive, false negative. We don't know exactly. Then we thought that what the best, and we discussed with a doctor, and they found that there one thing is called some cells that is called circulating tumor cells, CTC, circulating tumor cells. They are actually bloodstream. They keep circulating. If you are able to find it out and then detect it, then that is can be a very good marker for knowing that is a cancer has started and very early stage. Now, one of the problems that very early stage, if you take 1 ml of blood, you can get only 4 to 5 to 100 cells only, very small, right? So you cannot detect that such a small, because WBC, RBC are lakhs in number, and after you are 10 in number, how you differentiate between them? It's not very easy, right? So we thought that why don't you develop a fluidics device where you can actually able to separate this circulating tumor cell from WBC and RBC together, all together, and then even though number is small, because now they are separated from the from the masses, you can actually able to trace them, and that is what recently we are now trying to separate the CTC from WBC and RBC. So that is what we are now
recently working.
Recently, right now we are going on. It's not yet completed, but we are under. But there are many more examples. I don't want to take a lot of time.
Yeah. Professor Shiv, constant wall temperature in micro device is another important innovation by you. So, do we need constant wall temperature in micro device, and why maintain a constant temperature in X? This is something which is very challenging. So, how we can do that?
Very important. That required for both the side, because it required for electronic cooling as well. The reason I told you, because when you are having your chip and your channel is there, you know that as soon as your heat is going to be here, inlet side, and as soon as it reaches to the outlet, it will capture more heat, and so inlet temperature will be higher than the outlet temperature.
Okay.
So if temperature is different, what we'll see that it will hits up more. So the same device is there. You see the now device perspective. MOSFET is seeing two temperatures now. One is 39 degrees centigrade and another is 89 degrees centigrade. And you know that the behavior of transistor starts changing at a different temperature. So if you have different temperature, you have and you expect same work. But now one is high temperature, they behave differently. One is low temperature differently. So of course you are start getting different results. That is not good for you. So you require a constant temperature. Number one. So that is one important aspect. Number two, we want to take the application of it. I'm sure Professor Agrawal must have tell about it. We want to use it to use this as a PCR, polymer chain reaction. Okay. So because polymer chain reaction, three temperatures required. One is something 54, 78, and 94, and that temperature required to actually polymerize your DNA sequence. Okay. So that temperature is very critical. So you cannot actually vary a lot. You can vary not more than plus minus 0.5 degrees centigrade. You have to make your channel such that you can able to maintain this temperature all over, and hence with such a small devices in PCR you can do that. As probably you know that RT-PCR use PCR. So and PCR used to be a very low, less in use. So if in Corona time, if you have this our device is already could have developed, we are already ready with the proof of concept with the Professor Agrawal, but we are not able to use it because the prototype or product is not yet ready. But if that would have developed, then you have done the PCR at home. So then you can actually able to do the test very fast. But unfortunately, it's not yet ready. So that is another example of use of constant temperature.
Okay, Professor Shiv, you have done marvelous work on sensors. I want you to tell us something about gas sensors and what is the biggest challenge in that.
Yeah, so gas sensor is not the new topic. People are working long time back. So since one of what activity that they said I'm inspired by nature, I always try to what nature can do. I'm trying to do that.
Yes,
so
yes.
So gas sensor is again important because use. So I'm working on the gas sensor with a different perspective. Then I start thinking, what is the biggest challenge as you ask the question? So when I see that question, then I see what literature people are working on. The people are doing a sensing and they are using the different kind of material, and there are four metrics for getting good sensor. A should be very sensitive, it should be very specific, it requires low power, it should require low power, and so it should be low cost, and it can be do a continuous monitoring. The five fundamental things is required. But if you sit down and see all over, and you found that none of them is actually following any of this. So either they required very high temperature if they are low cost, low high power required, and as far as specificity is concerned, selectivity is concerned, they are very poor. Most of the metal oxide gas sensor, which is actually now covered in the most of the market, selectivity is very, very poor. And the way they solve the problem is actually they are solving by using materials. So they are trying to get a different material, and they are thinking this material will going to be very specific for that particular gas. That is true for some extent, but unfortunately, the physics behind interaction between the molecule and the material is such a way that they are adsorption and desorption. Okay, so it will not going to be, it can be specific, but it's not going to be 100% specific. So let's say, for example, if you are having NO2 and you are having CO and you are having SO2, they all have a similar physics to absorb on surface. So even though it may be specified more by NO2, but it can still absorb CO and it can absorb CO2, and it still can give the signal for that also. So you will not very specific. That is the biggest challenge. So we need to come up with some idea that like material way of solving is not going to give you the solution. So we have come up with the different way to solve it. So that instead of solving it the material way, let us solve with the signal processing way. More electronics, more like what we do in our department. So we take those advantage because we have the background knowledge. You are using those ideas to solve the challenge. Another challenge, as I said, the response time, because most of the metal oxide take lots of time to respond to know the concentration. But you don't have that much time. Many of the applications you want to know the quick result. You don't have time to wait for half an hour or for 10 minutes or 15 minutes to know result. You want the result to know in 1 minute, 30 seconds, something like that. And again, these are very material specific. So the another way people are wanted to get result, they are raising temperature very high. 300 centigrade, 400 centigrade is quite become power hungry. That temperature, if you put 400 centigrade, you can do a little faster, maybe 10 minutes, 5 minutes, you can get a result. That is also not very great. You want to get in 30 seconds, 1 minute, but still you are able to get reasonable time. But then power is required lots of power to do that. Okay. So to counter this, we are again come up with the say that we don't want to depend on the older method, heating and cooling way to get a result. Again, come up with a mathematical way of solving the problem.
Okay, great.
Another interesting way to. So I'm looking the problem very differently. I said that because lots of people are anyway working. If I will do the same thing, I'll be very bad.
Yes.
I'll not able to catch up them. So
Yes,
I rather. So I don't catch the bus. I catch the flight to come to the.
Great, sir. Professor Shiv, next your research interest is very interesting actually. That is 3D IC. I don't even know the meaning and name of this, sir. This look new terminology, and if you can explain 3D IC to us, its benefit, and what is the current status of research of 3D IC in India?
Wow. So yeah, see, this is very close to my heart. So
yeah,
something which I said I put 30% of my time or research time in this.
Okay.
Okay. So and if you go with the word 3D means three-dimensional integrated circuit. This is 3D IC.
Okay.
Three-dimensional integrated circuit. There is a little bit of history, then I'll come to you. So you know when we start our MOSFET, we start making planar. Okay. So all the activity actually happening in 200 to 300 nanometer of silicon. Rest of working as a bulk only. That is called the 2D IC. Means right now whatever technology you are using, that is called the two-dimensional integrated circuit. There are certain lots of problems you start suffering, especially when you are going to shrink down. Every day you are shrinking down. The number of devices going to increase so much. Okay, there is always a physical limit. So you cannot go and keep decreasing the size of, you cannot keep decreasing. You take the pen, stick, you break it easily, then break it easily. You can break it easily. But how long you can break it? You know that after a certain time you cannot break it. Okay. So similarly, the scaling down of the MOSFET device we are doing, we are able to break it every day, and we are actually able to reach to already 10 nanometer device. How long you can go it? Okay. And why you want to do it? Because you want to increase the performance, you want to increase the functionality of the device. These are things we wanted to achieve by decreasing the number of decreasing the size of our devices, and that is how the 2D IC grow. And I don't have any doubt that 2D IC ruled the world last 50 years without any problem, and they are going to rule another 10 years, 15 years, 20 years without any problem. But as a scientist, you have to foresee the problem beforehand. We are going to see that. Okay. I mean, when I was a student, that time my professor started saying that they are going to be dead end of 2D IC. They are going to do it. But we are blessed with lots of good brain in the IC industry, so we are keep extending it. But how long you can extend it? There should be some alternative way to overcome this problem. So I can give you the example. For example, in my town, when Varanasi, most of the house are one-dimensional. I mean, one story. Okay. But if you now see my own town, Varanasi, it is now multiple. I can see 20-story building as well.
Yes.
Okay. Why to do that? Because we don't have the space, and otherwise you have to go. Latency become high. If you have to stay very far from the Varanasi, then to commute to your office place will take lots of time.
Yes.
That is called, I can say, latency in term of the engineering name. Latency. Interconnect length become very high. So you cannot able to commute very fast. Similarly, and if latency become high, then I square R heating it become high. So you are going to generate more heat.
Yes.
So let's think like that. Now let's say somehow your office is just above my office. Okay? Then how quickly we can actually meet and solve the problem. So the idea of 3D IC is that, like, the 2D IC, there are many ALU. Okay, many ALU. So they are connecting by the interconnects. Because interconnect length become higher and higher, the heat generation I square R, if length become high, R become high, then I square R loss will be high, right? So you are going to lose not only time, response time, in fact, you are going to heat it up also. So, and if that is the case, then you need to decrease it. It means the early you are interacting with this from here to here, okay, by land. If I can bring it here, what will happen? I can just need to travel only 10 microns and I will be interact with that. So traveling reduce, interconnect, length will decrease, I square R loss will be decreased, response will increase. So that is the advantage of going to 2D to 3D. Another advantage. Another advantage, very important advantage, bandwidth increase. For example, if you have to do ALU for memory and the processor, they have to connect. So only edge can be connected, right? Like whatever edge is there, you can connect. While you have 10 edge, you can have 10 edge here. You can connect. So bandwidth require two things. A, how fast you can go. And second, how many lane you are. For example, if you take the road analogy, you might have wonderful road, I mean that is interconnect. Length is become very good. Now you can offer very good interconnect. Very good road, very silky road. You can go fast. But if it is only one lane, do you think that the traffic will be less? Not really. What you need for that, you require multiple lanes.
Very true.
So you require multiple lanes. Similarly, for increase the bandwidth, we want not only good road, not only good interconnect, but require multiple lanes. In 2D, we have only edge available because that you have to connect like this. So we have limited number of lanes, but the requirement is required. We require much more. But if you go to 3D, now you not only available only edge, you are available but in the inside. So if I say this is 100, this is 100, then 100 into 100, 10 to power 4 lane is now available instead of only 100 lanes. So now you are actually able to increase the bandwidth also. So you can actually communicate your data bit much faster. Okay, performance go increase. Third advantage, probably the most advantage, which cannot be solved anyway by the 2D, is heterogeneous integration. Time I told you, if you remember in MEMS work, you are not able to integrate the MEMS device. I tell you, tons of MEMS good devices available, but they don't able to get the circuit to communicate with them, and that's why they're not in use. Now this will give the opportunity for the heterogeneous integration. What I mean to say that you are actually able to connect a display or analog or your MEMS device with your ASIC circuit and just top up it. Okay, and then they start communicating much faster. And then good thing is that you need not to make in the same foundry. You can make your MEMS foundry in one place, Sitar, ASIC in your SCL Chandigarh, or Taiwan, or Intel, bring them together and make interconnect out of it. Okay, and then they connect them and let them communicate with each other. By this, you are actually enabling heterogeneous integration, which is the need of our, and that will increase the functionality of the device, of the system. And that is why 3D-IC is really going to be a boon in anywhere. In India, unfortunately, not many people are working. So my group is fully working on it, and some group in IIC Bangalore, but unfortunately not many. But in worldwide, it become one of the hottest topic. In fact, lots of industry like IBM, Intel, Tejaran, TSMC, all are working very extensively. We need more people working on this, more supporting.
Hello, sir. Fortunately, you are working in that professorship. That is a great thing for us. Now, I have come to almost an end of our beautiful session, sir. But before that, I would like to ask you two questions. Number one question is related to some awards which have been bestowed upon you, sir. You have been conferred with the prestigious Abdul Kalam Technology Innovation National Fellowship by INAE. So please tell something about this and how you felt when you got this prestigious award, sir.
Yeah, so I for this I have to thank some people before going to this award is about somebody who done some kind of lifetime innovation type of work. Lots of innovation work can be done. So, and it is something like Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Award or Swarna Jayanti Fellowship.
Yes.
similar in line, but it is no age bar in there. For example,
Okay.
for Jayanti, there is a bar for 40 years,
Yes.
for Bhatnagar, there is 45 years,
Yes.
but this is no age bar.
Okay.
Any age it can be given.
Okay.
And of course, the legendary name has been given by INE, by Abdul Kalam name. So on his birthday, it has
It
been
is given. Okay.
is given. So of course, this I was not expecting, to be honest, because I'm too young to think that I will get this kind of thing.
Okay.
So I must thank for this many people. I have lots of acknowledgement to do for this. I feel, of course, when you work, you don't work for the awards, right? You
Right, sir.
work
Right,
for
sir.
your happiness and your
True.
vision.
True.
But it's come then, it encourage your student
Yes.
to that your work was well
Yes.
acknowledged by the
Yes.
scientific community of the India. So you feel good. I have to make some acknowledgement. So I, of course, I acknowledge all my mentors from my childhood to my parents, because they're also my mentors actually. Actually, my father was my teacher as well. So because he was teacher in the college, same college.
Okay.
So to them, but especially if I have to mention that Professor Amit Agrawal
Yes.
and Professor Ram Gopal Rao, both was have a huge impact in my and they have mentored me very delicately and given all kind of supports and guidelines to reach this. And then I must thank to my students. Right? They have really worked tirelessly, uh, uh, very diligently, and come up lots of solutions of many of the difficult problems we are working on. So I must thank to them. I must thank to my small family, my wife, Dr. Ranjana Singh. She really helped me, like always promote me. I have two lovely little angel kids, daughters, uh, Samriddhi and Sanskriti. They are like they are very young. They are just 10 years and 7 year old, but they give lots of happiness in your journey. Like when you tired and just play with them 10 minutes, you get energy back. So with
Understood.
that, I thanks everybody and thanks to you that you have really given lots of time. And
Okay.
so
So this is a wonderful, actually, when we see this kind of research work going on. In fact, it's almost 2 hours we have interacted, and it was, I was feeling like in India, when we have many things we can boast of India, we have many things which we criticize also, sir. And this is something which we can boast of. Great brain here, and talking about the technology, which nobody has thought of, and we are the first, something like that, sir. It is really wonderful. And it was really wonderful interacting with you, Professor Shiv. My last question to you, sir, is this.
Yeah.
You have been a great student. You have been a great teacher. If some student wants to work with you under your guidance in masters, in a doctorate or something, sir, what do you expect from him? My straight question is, when you identify some student for you to make a great group, research group, what do you see in the student, so that when somebody is watching this video, he will obviously feel like working with you, professor, because the kind of cutthroat technologies you are working on, so they would like to work with you. So what do you see in those students, and who can aspire? Can a student from very common college aspire to work under your guidance, sir, and how?
that's a very important question and a very
Yes.
very so as a student, anybody, in fact in my lab I don't have any no coming from the very big in places. They are coming from the very normal places. So
Right.
I don't see you need to come from IIT or NIT. They come there, everybody welcome. But anybody have two quality I want. A, they should be ready to take the challenge. So they are ready to work hard. B, they should be thinking independently as well. So
Okay.
I don't give the pressure. I give lots of time they can come up. And these two things, if they have it, and they think they can do independent thinking, I will be always there for support. But that is good to become a good researcher to do independent thinking. I got lots of independent thinking chances from my professor, Professor Siddhartha Gupta and Professor Amit Agrawal. Both have given me a lot of liberty. So similar, I get liberty, but independent thinking and hard working, these two things, rest can manage. Because like rest will come with the time. But this two is there in you, and passion. You should love the thing. See, unless you enjoy the journey, it should not be painful to you. It should not come the last option. Probably you should have feel that, aha, this I wanted to do that. I have opportunity. Let us go and do it. If you enjoy the journey of doing research, it look It look majestic. And I can tell you from my side, for me, journey of research is a like 15 years I'm in honeymoon type, like this kind of I will phase. So I feel like I'm really enjoyed it. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I say that the day I stop enjoying it, I leave it.
Great, Professor.
Enjoyment is the big factor. You feel you are going to enjoy it, to do some, it gives lots of enjoyment. If you know any small idea come in my mind, I tell you seriously, I for 1 week I actually in the dreams. I
start.
I start like
Visualizing.
Inside happy. I'm giving a lot of joy inside. I feel like wow, I have achieved something God type. So that is that kind of feeling you can get it. But enjoyment, if you do it, you are ready for hard work, and you are ready to take independent thing. I think you not only my group, any group who wanted to do research work, you can go there and work. Nobody look for from where you are coming. Everybody look for this thing.
Professor, this PhD, masters, MS, etc., they are long duration programs. And when I interact with the students, bright students also, they think that, okay, it is going to take a lot of time and all. So, sir, what is your advice to such students who are temperament-wise research oriented? Maybe they are capable also and temperament also they have, but they fear because of the duration and uncertainty prevailing after these courses. So what is your advice to such students?
What you want to do? Why you want to go early for anything? For example, you want to go do a job for what? For taking enjoyment, right? You want to enjoy the thing. You're getting the same enjoyment doing this process.
Yes. Then you take it.
You can take it, right? Like, why do you want to do something else?
Right.
So
sir.
enjoyment is a factor. And of course, one thing is there, like if you do Samudra Manthan, right? Definitely, it will take some time, You have to be get patient.
Right.
अंत में अमृत मिलता है.
Right. Professor Shiv, my last question to you, sir, is you have vast experience of institutes in India. You started, you graduated from BHU, went to IIT Bombay. Presently, you are in IIT Hyderabad. One of your mentor is director of IIT Delhi. So I want to ask you a question very straight, sir. Now, there are different IITs. We categorize IITs, new IITs, old IITs, something like that. Sir, IIT Hyderabad versus IIT Bombay. Can I ask you this question? If some student is targeting to go and work, why? Because IIT Hyderabad is a new IIT, but we have people like you working there. So how do you answer this question? If some student says, sir, should I go to IIT Bombay or should I go to IIT Hyderabad? What is your answer to that, sir?
So it depends what the choice of the student. But I said that, but IIT Hyderabad rank wise is 8th in India. So and IIT Bombay is 2nd rank. So we are not very far from the IIT Bombay anyway.
Yes, so yes.
Very close to IIT Bombay.
Yes.
We are already top 10 for last 3 years continuously.
Okay.
So rank wise not a different. But you should go with the choice of your work. So if you like something, you choose the faculty rather than the institute.
Yes.
Okay, so you choose the faculty where you want to work, then the research area. Then this is easy for you to choose the person. Right. But if you go to institute, there is some advantage. I don't deny that. If you go, institute has their own tag, and this is important as well. But if you work above, right, then the normal, then you cut across all those things. So it does not really matter that you did it from MIT or IIT. You get selected in good places. Great. So it means go with your inner voice, choose the research work, and then choose the where you want to go there. If you find out two faculty of similar natures, similar kind of work, I'll suggest then you go for the institute, because then institute bring some to be honest to the student, right? Why to the right? So if you feel that two faculty you chose, both are equal in credentials and everything, then I suggest that if you are able to get the institute like IIT Bombay with higher rank than IIT Hyderabad, they can choose. But if you find that the other guy choice is better, I think then that matter most than anything else.
So the main thing should be research area which you will enjoy for a long time. Right. And as you said, for the last so many years you're enjoying. It can only be possible if you choose the research area properly.
Yeah, it's a long time commitment. You cannot just choose the place to go, because as you said, 5-year time, sometimes 6-year time, 4-year time, and you are going to spend your golden period of your life. Right. This age 21 to 26, you are going to invest. You want to invest somewhere, you really going to enjoy it more. So that's where you have to. Professor
Shiv, believe me, sir, it was so wonderful interacting with you. And information, knowledge, wisdom was flowing from your side, sir. And now I will make sure this flows to thousands of students further, and they get enlightened by your experience, sir. And I'm honored to interact with you today, sir. Really,
I'm
thanks.
very happy also to interact with you. So like long time I have shared my all the domains. Like I have like sharing one by one to somebody, right? Because
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
nobody is going to listen to all this thought.
Yeah, yeah.
After a long,
Thanks.
long time, I think I've shared like full of research fields. So
Thanks a lot,
thank
sir.
you very
Thanks
much.
a lot.
Thank you very much. Yeah.